All right, folks, welcome back to Mike Maurice's Mind Escape. We actually have episode number 150 today. And
Oh,
yeah, I know. We're going to do Trip Reports Part 4. This is just to wrap it up, a recap, go over our interpretations of it from beginning to end, and, what we think about the metaphysics and the how the mind works in correlation to all of it. So go check out our website, mindescapepodcast.com. Subscribe to our channel. You can also find us on Patreon at patreon.com/mindescapepodcast. For $2 a month, you'll get exclusive content. We have episodes on there. We also have some new tiers on there if people are interested. And Maurice followed through and had the shirts made, so we'll have some of those available soon. And
we got ourselves a big day, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 150 and Big Bear's birthday today. It's Michael's birthday. We're all sending you some good positive vibes. How's it going, my man?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel as old as I am, but I guess, that's just how it goes, right?
I think as we get older, the ages are like, how do I explain this? Like, I'm 35, but I feel like a 25-year-old would probably in the 80s or something. I don't know if that's because of medicine.
And don't worry about looking at us either, folks, because we're just partying in the background. So
yep, whoop it up. Yep. Yeah, because on our 35th and 36th birthdays, that's what we do. We've actually stopped doing substances just to party, and that leads us into today's topic is the sacred mushroom.
Yeah. Oh, and I did that. I did the moderation for Tom Lane's 5-hour intensive talk at the Mount Tam Psilocybin Summit. Was it 2 days ago?
So is that available anywhere, or did you have to watch it live?
No, I think you could probably still go to psilocybinsummit.com, and you could probably still get in and at least watch a lot of the stuff there. I think it said that it was going to be on the website. I don't know if it was permanently or what, but you can go on there and watch that, I'm pretty sure.
I wonder if we could get a hold of that and pop that up on our Patreon, or just put it up for free so people could get their ears on it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think you can go on the website and check it out. I'm not 100% sure if it's up there yet, because I know that there's like a little bit of delay before, between when it was live at the webinar and when it's actually posted for people to watch as like a playback or DVR.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I did that, and it was awesome. I mean, Tom did what he's done on our show and just conveyed all the Mesoamerican metaphysics and his, sacred mushroom ritual experiences with Maria Sabina, and his travels through Mexico, and his book, Sacred Mushroom Rituals, and just the whole thing, man. He did a good job, and we've talked about some of that stuff on the episodes we've had on with him. I believe we've done 4 episodes with him on Sacred Mushroom Rituals. The first 2 were kind of about his book and his experiences. I want to say the third one was on the metaphysics, Mesoamerican metaphysics, and then the 4th one we did was with Maria Sabina. So yeah, go check those out. I think they're under the Psychedelic playlist. I have them, so...
Yeah, so he's probably done over 5 hours on our show.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think one of the episodes we did with him was like 2 hours, and then we have a couple Patreons that we did with him too.
He loves that stuff. He's got a great knowledge for it, and if you ask him questions, he'll talk to you all day.
Yeah,
great dude.
He's a good guy. He's a really, really nice guy. And you said it. If you have any questions, he's open and honest, and just wants to share the information. So,
yeah.
Good stuff. So yeah, that was fun. And also at the Psilocybin Summit, they also had like Paul Stamets, Dennis McKenna, lots of people. Even that guy, from back home, the microdose guy. He did I believe a 5-hour intensive.
Yeah, Adam Bramlich. Give him a shout out, Adam Bramlich.
So yeah, lots of cool stuff happening there. I think it's a good idea. Obviously, if you can't meet in person, these webinars it's not the same thing, but I think in some regards it might even be better, because if you can watch like a slideshow, kind of like what we did for 5 hours, and there's like diagrams and pictures and stuff, it kind of keeps your attention.
Well, especially in today's world, that might be the only option. So keep that flowing. I don't know if there's going to be another one coming up here, but I'm looking forward to it.
Sweet. So, and then just one more quick plug before we jump in. Go to indrasweb.org and sign up to get an alert when the app goes live. I know I keep saying it'll be soon, but I had some personal stuff, moving and stuff I had to take care of. So now I'm getting back into the flow of working on this thing. So go to indrasweb.org, sign up. You'll get an alert when it goes live. The app is dedicated to rational discourse and talking about the topics that we love and talk about on the show, like metaphysics and ancient civilizations and paranormal stuff, UFO stuff, just all the fringe things that people are afraid to talk about on other platforms or maybe even get booted in some cases. So that's what we've created. And yeah, so excited about that. And
Beautiful.
yeah, so looking back now, after we've done now, what is it? 3 previous episodes. First one was like high school years and the first times we'd done it, and psychedelics, and then the second episode was about like college and getting a little bit older, and the most recent one was like some of our more recent trips. So looking back, is there one that you probably liked the most or had it had the most impact on you?
The last one had the most impact on me by far. That was definitely the most magical one. But I also think it was because I was probably in the most sober state of mind. Looking back, a lot of these episodes, I'd have some booze on hand, so I could kind of, like we were saying before, it kind of dulls the effect if you drink a little bit on it. So if it gets too intense, you can drink it off. But the last time I didn't have any booze, so it was just whatever it was going to show it to me, and there was no way of me avoiding that message.
I think you're getting a little crackly here, bud. So I just
Snap, crackle, and pop. Every time we attempt one thing, something else backfires. But
yeah, I don't know. Let me see here.
That's what one thing about just addressing that all together is me and Michael live in different states. We do our best to come to you guys as clean as possible, and we're just going to keep getting better with our sound and video as we go, and we'll never be satisfied. So we want to thanks for everybody for watching and listening, and we're going to keep getting better at that. So
yeah, I don't know. I can't it didn't pull it up right away to hear if you're it just like you sounded a little crackly on my end, and I just wanted to make sure that we're good before I don't know.
we're always good, my man. We are always good. Just jump right in and let's see what happens here.
All right. So your most recent, so that was the one that you were talking about in Colorado.
Yeah. Again, like, it wasn't the craziest time I've ever had. It wasn't probably the funnest I've ever had on it, but that one experience now has forever changed my view on the drug, or not, well, the substance, the medicine, if you will, because I'm never gonna abuse it. And like I said, it kept echoing in my mind: sacred mushroom, sacred mushroom. The craziest time I've ever had was probably the funnest. This guy's very, very worried.
No, I was just checking because, like I said, you're pretty Wolfman Jack on my end of things, but whatever.
Well, I'm sure if people had a problem, they would let me know.
Somebody comment.
Hey.
Does it sound good when Maurice talks? Somebody just comment or hit one of the live chats.
So what's interesting about my 2 experiences. The first one I ever did was probably the best time I ever had on it. The most mystical. I was a kid, and it was probably the most of the effects I've ever had. And then the last one. So I don't know. Who knows if I'll ever do them again? I'm down with the micro dosing, but as far as macro stuff, I'm probably gonna think twice about it.
Yeah, you like those micros, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's funny because when you were a kid, I think one of your favorite toys were micro machines.
Yeah, those were classics. I don't know, something about them, these tiny little machines that were perfectly sculpted into whatever it was. I like that.
Yeah, what's funny is I don't even know what birthday it was, but I do remember the most birthday parties I've ever remembered are probably yours. So Major Magics and all that stuff. But I do remember you getting some badass micro machines one time. You had like an aircraft carrier.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that aircraft
That was
carrier is sick, bro.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah.
find those anymore. People
If
are
you still had that stuff, it would probably be worth some dough.
maybe.
So what about you? What were the pivotal points in your mushroom experiences?
I mean, the first one by far, because it was like, oh,
I think that's yeah.
here's a doorway to a different dimension that I was always
Right.
searching for. Like, like growing up, like I said in the first couple episodes, you think, you grow up and, if you believe in religion or like a God or, like I said, I went to Catholic schools till I was, I don't even know, sixth grade, fifth grade. So yeah, you believe in it without really thinking about it, kind of. It's not even like brainwashed. It's just like your day-to-day consciousness or part of it. And then when you start to question it and start to really look into what's what, you realize what faith
All hell
is.
breaks loose.
Well, you realize
Yeah.
what faith is, and faith is literally what it says. You're having faith in something that isn't tangible. You can't put your finger on it or explain exactly what it is. It just is what it is.
Unprovable.
And yet somebody came up with the idea or the concepts that you're believing in. So, that's kind of, so yeah. The first one was kind of just like, this is something tangible and real that, is here now. I can have the experience and I can take something away from it and use it and apply it to my everyday life, So,
Yeah.
yeah,
We were kind of submerged in that counterculture anyway, with the books we were reading, with the music we were listening to, and everything that surround that substance was always mystical. I remember going on Erwid and reading about it, but then there's just like, it's almost like Alice in Wonderland. She's eating the mushroom. So ever since you've been a kid, there's always been some mystical properties surrounding the mushroom.
mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I mean, that's why people make the argument for all the religious aspects. I'll say this. From the feeling when you come down from like mushrooms or psychedelics, where it's like, oh, I need to get my life in order, like I need to figure things out, between that and the actual experience itself and just feeling like you're in commune with something greater than yourself. Those two things alone would help me understand, like, looking back at like our ancient civilizations or even pre-civilization, if people were using these substances, that might have helped shape, our thoughts and, maybe that's how we started to think about self and being and things like that, because it just does something to you when you come down. I mean, I think that when you look at religion, like, yeah, you can meditate and pray, and I'm sure things happen through that because I've had crazy and weird things happen in meditation, but when it comes to psychedelics, it's like the only thing you can do, like walking around and like fully conscious in this waking reality, and you can like interact with it. You know what I'm saying? So I think when you look,
But I disagree with the sense that you were saying that you're communicating with something else. I look at it more as you're communicating with yourself.
yeah, that too.
At a more clean level.
I believe that. I believe it could be yourself. I'm not gonna put all my eggs.
I haven't
in
taken I've never done the 10 whatever the fuck
you don't
did
even
that
need
one time, the macro, man.
But you don't even need to do that much, I don't think, to get what I'm talking about.
Right.
Like, I don't think you need to take a 10 tried gram dose or higher or lower, whatever it is. I think that you personally, when's the last time you took a full eighth?
Oh, I've never done that before.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even that much either. That's only 3.5.
Yeah.
I'm not saying do it.
That,
No, I'm making the point that, like, I mean, even
well, do you think you get more out of the bigger dosage?
I do. Whatever feeling you had on your experience, I think this is what I think. I've had those too. Now times that by like 3 or 4. Like that's
right.
It's just more.
And you're within it for at least a couple hours, and then when you're on them, the hours seem like even longer. So you're essentially going into this for a good 12 hours. It's only 6 hours,
Well,
but
I
it's
mean, it probably
probably
lasts.
double the time and
Yeah, I'd
feeling.
say it probably lasts 4 to 6 hours, and then I'd say 4 to 6 hours, and then yeah, you probably got like a couple hours coming down where you still feel weird, and usually that's when I like smoke
Yeah.
and vape and stuff.
Don't you think 1 hour feels like at least two though, with the way that time is
Oh no, probably more
disoriented?
than that. I mean, one time I was
Right. But I'm just being generous though. I'm just saying. So if you're fully going for about 5 6 hours, then
I mean, one time I was meditating for, I don't know, um, I don't know, it felt like a long time, but maybe it ended up being like, I want to say 15 minutes, but I felt like it was 2 hours.
yeah.
I mean, it really
Well,
did
there's
feel
no
like,
way to judge that.
yeah. I mean, that's the weird thing about the whole time thing too, is like we know time dilation is real. I mean, because you can, the more
Uh-huh.
gravity there is, the more time slows down. There's the atomic clock experiment where they drop.
But time might only apply to something that's actually living, right? Like that time only applies to something that's alive because
Well, I mean,
the only
that's
thing
a
that time
physicist.
is a
No,
tracker of how long you
no,
live.
because physicists would argue that like time is, um, it's a dimension, but it's not a spatial dimension. So, but it's like woven into space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying I 100%, yeah, that's just what like Einstein's theory of relativity calls for. That's what all these physicists and quantum physicists build all of their models off of. And yeah, quantum mechanics and classical physics are not even married at this point, and there hasn't been any real big discoveries of late, per se. So
Hmm.
that
Yeah, we need some crazies.
we've talked about that whole thing, but I think that all this psychedelic research could yield some interesting you know results in terms of how the mind works and our relationship to consciousness and consciousness's relationship to the universe and how those two things interact. I think that could be huge.
Hmm. Yeah, that our buddy who's gonna administer the DMT intravenously, that's gonna be some interesting stuff to see if he can pull out any information from that world. But maybe these worlds we go into are not meant to be able to pull things out of because really you go in to learn for yourself. So you really shouldn't have to bring anything out to report because the whole point of you going in is to learn within you. So while you're pulling out information, we're just trying to get the information so that people may be able to help themselves down the road. But other than that, like, what's the point of it? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, but I think that when you pull the information out, when you're able to take something back into reality, those are like the visionary people that you see that have used these substances. Like they've gained something that's so outside the box, it helps them, utilize that in their day to day life or their creative life or whatever.
Right. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying you can't teach somebody else that. And that's essentially what these people are. They're trying to go into these realms
I think they're
and
looking to
pull out
see.
information that we can.
I think they're looking to see, is there like something there? Is it not necessarily, like we've talked a lot about this. Like, is it a different dimension? I mean, technically, you're still here in your body, so what's
Right.
going on? Is it lifting some sort of like pareidolia filter that we have set in our minds, like the way that we just receive data into our consciousness every day, so that when you take these substances and your brain's making more neural connections and things like that, it opens up more doors and more perception of what's actually going on that we can't see because we can't see a majority of the things that are happening.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. Is it shutting stuff off, which is making us slower, or is it shutting things off, which is allowing us to see things more clearly?
yeah, I mean,
That's the big question because I mean that's the big argument is, oh well, this sense is being dulled down. That's why you start either seeing things or perceiving things in a different way. But if we're receiving some kind of you know like we're running on like our bodies are receivers of some sort, then it might be blocking out the screen that's showing us what we want to see on a day to day.
hmm. Yeah, I mean that's I don't even know if it's is it us wanting to block it. It might be our mind saying that's
No, I don't think it's us wanting. I think it's a natural thing
but
that
it could be like
occurs.
our mind like making decisions in terms of like let's not pay attention to that because it's not as important. But maybe it is important, but it's just like you've reached a level where you should look for it. You know what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, so,
Yeah.
normally it's just about survival. Your body's set up to survive and adapt and all that stuff. So once that you get into the mode where you're like you're comfortable or you have, some sort of good routine going on, then maybe like, okay, now it's time to add a little bit more data to the plan here and start to
Right,
build
right.
off that. I don't know, but that's kind of the way I look at it.
Well, you just explained exactly what humans do. We get into a comfortable thing, and then anything that deviates from it. Some people just have a bigger threshold for change. Like I get into a routine, and when it alters, my anxiety occurs.
Mm,
So it's like but it's weird that I'm going to some animal instinct that like makes me anxious. Maybe that's like makes me afraid for my life for some reason. If I don't do the same thing day to day that I know is safe, it's got to have something to do with it.
yeah,
Because all that is like all those triggers in people's minds are just, I'm assuming there's some kind of animal thing that's just like a warning system, and it just makes you feel uncomfortable. But there was a reason for it at one point. Now because we live such safe lives that it doesn't really even go into effect.
of course. Yeah, I mean, we talked about that too, like the fight or flight. Your amygdala and not having that. The feeling of like being prey to something else and kind of being at the top of the food chain and being
Right.
able to manipulate almost all of your environment for the most part. I mean, there's such numbers and population of human beings right now that we could do pretty much whatever we want, and that is what we do. We force our will on the earth. So if that's the case, then I think we need to be more mindful about what exactly we're doing and not just do stuff to do stuff. But I mean, that's a whole different topic and
Yeah, you're
episode.
opening up the can of worms for the for the year.
um,
So
but I mean, you could look at it different ways too. You could look at the earth like it's this canvas and you're the art on the canvas kind of a thing. But if that's the case, why would you still want to be destructive or, ruin the earth or something like, it doesn't make any sense. So,
yeah, I think a lot of that just comes from uneducated peeps.
yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
But
I mean,
this substance is just. Go ahead.
I think if you, um, I think if you boil it down though, like from the experiences that I've had, there is the whole placebo thing does it's not that it's the substance doesn't alter your chemistry or um you know it definitely alters you, but I think it's how what mindset you're in and like your mind frame, like what you've been thinking about, things that you've been researching, things like that all come into play um during so like if you look at episode 1 and then look at episode 2 and you see like the evolution, we talk about like episode 1 is about our high school experiences, and what we talk about is like our friends and doing it in groups and going to parties and concerts and things
Right.
like that, and that's all great and wonderful, but that's not using
It's
these
not great and
substances.
wonderful at all. It's kids being
But I'm
stupid.
saying it was fun, but what I'm saying is there
Yeah,
was no reverence for these substances, so therefore the
absolutely
experiences
not.
that we had was kind of, yeah, it was fun, but it was nothing more than that. There's nothing you can really draw from it other than a fond memory of going to see a jam band and getting your rocks off listening, while you're you
Well,
know
not to toot our own horns though, but that's kind of the point that I was making is we weren't the run of the mill. We're gonna take mushrooms like the Eminem song. We weren't doing that at least. At least we were doing because when I used to smoke pot back in high school, I would write songs and stuff. I wasn't partying at all. I was just puffing it and actually being creative on it. So yeah, there was a little bit of the let's take some and party, but I think
hmm
we were a little bit more educated than the normal Joe.
yeah, but so my point is the evolution here. So in the first episode we talked about our high school days. It's a lot of social, it's surrounded by hanging out with friends and going to parties and going to concerts and stuff like that. And it slowly evolves into you're in college and it's like, oh, let's watch some weird movies and then think deeply about things, kind of a thing, and evolved into that. And then, you get to the point where in episode 3, like our more recent trips, since we've been doing this podcast now for almost 3 years, and we've been studying esoteric stuff, philosophy, metaphysics, UFOs, whatever, all sorts of crazy mystery, mystical type stuff. Now, when I do have an experience, it usually is surrounded by that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So
I think that the whole, going into it, it's not the substance that creates the scape or the landscape of your trip or whatever. It's your actual mind. It's the chemical playing off of your mind. So it's enhancing kind of whatever you've been thinking about, and it puts you in that imagination realm. Like it puts you in the, like I told you about the one trip in episode 3 where I was meditating in darkness on psilocybin, and it said, this is what, this realm is the realm of imagination. Like whatever realm you go to when you take enough psilocybin and are meditating and having a metaphysical experience, that's the realm of imagination. You're tapping into what imagination is.
Mm-hmm. So that sounds a lot like the Alice in Wonderland world.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about that in terms of Alice in Wonderland's a good one in terms of you watch it when you're a kid and you think it's just some stupid weird movie, but then you watch when you're older, like, holy shit, look at all these hidden, things in here, symbolism. And
well, isn't it interesting when you watch it as a kid how you just accept the weirdness of the other world? When you're a kid, you're so connected to that realm. I feel still, it's like seeing magical stuff is just the norm. But then as you grow older, you go, oh, these people must have been on drugs. When you're a kid, it's just absolutely normal to see a cat disappear and caterpillar smoking a hookah. It's just that's why I love
the caterpillar reminds me of like Jabba the Hutt smoking like a big hookah. Yeah. But it's like Caterpillar the Hutt.
It might have been pulled from that.
No, but I agree. And I think you're right, though. You and I, even though when we were younger, we didn't have the reverence that we do now. I mean, we were still reading, about the early days of the Grateful Dead, because we were obviously in jam bands and played music and stuff, that we were into like the occult side of the things and the counterculture and the electric Kool-Aid acid test, Grateful Dead. We were watching Fear and Loathing. We were watching all these things and reading these books and On the Road and all that kind of Dharma bums, all that kind of stuff. So
we would take it to the next level. It's like, what is the song? We would hear a song we'd liked, and then we would research what's the song actually about.
Yeah,
and then you actually get into the minds of these guys.
Yeah, we used to go through the Fish catalog. That one was the hardest one. That was the most tricky.
That one, we were barking up the wrong tree on that one because no one knows what the song still means. You gotta
try to understand Tom Marshall to understand that. But yeah, the Grateful Dead stuff. I mean, Robert Hunter was pretty good about recording, like Anthem to the Beauty, when he's talking about writing all the Grateful Dead lyrics with Jerry and Bob and stuff. It's a great documentary. It's called Anthem to Beauty. So he talks about, he explains the meaning behind the songs and he cries. That's how poetic and passionate he is about the different lyrics and what they meant and everything. So so yeah, I think we had a good basis. We understood them. We weren't dumb about it. We weren't taking way too much and doing dumb things or putting ourselves in harm's way or anything like that.
I was smarter when I was in high school than I was when I was in my mid-20s.
Yeah, that's true.
Because when I was in my mid-20s, I started boozing. When you start boozing, your brain goes back to 4-year-old days,
True story.
When I was in high school, I barely drank, and I was just very smart about it. Why you gotta embarrass me? Because I know what's coming out of your mouth.
What story?
I don't know. One of the 10 that I've embarrassed myself.
Yeah, but which one do you think it is?
A microwave night? I don't know.
Microwave Mike for sure. It's not that bad. I don't know why. So I moved back to Michigan for a little bit, and I was living with Maurice at this house with all these guys. People playing music.
It was a band house.
It was like musician house, and we would also play online poker till 4 a.m. every night.
We had to make ends meet. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So that night, I mean, we partied a lot, but that night Maurice drank a ton. I mean, a lot. I mean, you probably drank, I don't even know, what, 15 beers, something like that. Labatt Blue
Well,
Lights.
the thing I used to love, yeah, I love Labatt Blues and Labatt Blue Light, but I also was drinking a lot of Crown in those days. We used to play horseshoes in the backyard, and every time you got a ringer, you'd have to do a shot of Crown, and I would drink Crown on the rocks. But after this summer, I actually gave up Crown before I gave up all booze, but I just had to give up the Crown. Anyways, back to Michael.
So yeah, this night he was particularly hammered. And if you know Maurice, you know that at the end of the night, when he's done some partying, he loves to grub up on something. We don't know. Might be a little takeout. You know, if he's too hammered, he might order something, you know. But at the end of the day, he decided that this night he was going to make something in the microwave. So he goes into the kitchen. We're all sitting there in the other room. And I hear, and I go in there, and literally the microwave, because it used to be on top of the fridge in the corner, and I go in there, and the microwave is literally on top of his chest, and he's flailing about on the ground like some sort of beetle that got like smushed by a microwave. And I wish I had a camera phone. I mean, this was right around when camera phones were starting to become prevalent, but yeah, it was pretty funny, and I knew he was okay, so it was even funnier.
I did bruise a couple ribs, and man, let me tell you, it's not fun being a jokester with some bruised ribs, because every time I laughed, it would hurt so bad. So that was like the penance. That was my learning thing. It's like don't take the joke way too far, man, because by the time you're done, you're not gonna be able to laugh.
I saw Martin Ferretti jumped in here. Shout out to Martin. Check out his YouTube channel, The Alchemical Mind. It's also a podcast, and we've had him on the show before. But yeah, go give him some love on YouTube when you get a chance. So back to reality here. Yeah, I definitely saw the evolution of how we think, and through our psychedelic use, and how it, you know, our minds have kind of responded to that. I think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward, because obviously we don't take psychedelics that often, if any. I know you just had a recent experience, and probably 5 or 6 months ago I had a couple experiences, so we don't do it often, maybe once or twice a year.
Now.
Yeah, once or twice a year, a few times a year now. I mean, I've done psilocybin, I don't know, like I said, I told you I counted like 150, 160 times or something between the ages of 16 and 30, something like that. So
36, bro. It's 20 years anniversary today.
Yeah.
Should have popped the cap.
But so I'm excited to see where it goes, but I don't, you know, if I'm going to do it going forward.
I'm more excited to see for the information. I'm more excited to see what comes out, because I know what they're capable of doing.
Right.
So I'm excited to see the stuff we were in Colorado when we were doing ours, and I think it's medicinally legal there. So there's a lot of stuff coming out right now. It's a good time to be alive.
They're trying to decriminalize it.
Let me rephrase that. It's a good time to be alive for some stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was going to say it's a pretty brutal world out there right now for everybody, but hopefully that changes here.
Well, as far as information goes, you know, going towards psychedelic drugs, and
we're all going to need it after this year, so.
Yeah, the aliens might come down with a mushroom and go, hey.
We've sent these here.
Who ordered this?
We've been sprouting these up off the ground for hundreds of thousands of years, and you guys.
Yeah, and you guys still can't learn.
Yeah, you guys collected the message, you ate the message, you experienced the message, but you still don't know the message. We've been
watching these two turds podcasts talking about them for the last 4 episodes, and no one's taking a note.
Yeah, I also think that when you look at how young we were when we started to experience them, I wonder if that had an effect too, positive or negative. That's something I think about. I don't have any regrets. I mean, whatever happened happened, but um, you know, like I said, I used to take it a
We have
lot.
very different. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also we've experiment. I've taken like experimental, stuff before and all sorts of crazy shit. So I mean, who knows you know what happens every time, and most of my experiences have been positive, and I wrote about it in our blog and stuff. So I mean, I don't have any, like I said, I don't have any regrets, but it's just something I do think about in terms of, and when I say negative, it's like, did the early trips where I didn't have the reverence and I wasn't able to rationalize why I was being faced with these anxieties and stuff like that, it left a mark on me, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but you can't look back on that at all. I think you've used it enough to check, take a check mark saying this is a valid medicine for me.
Oh, well,
And
there's no question about that. But I'm just saying, like I said, I think, me, I analyze it all, and I think if you're being
oh yeah, yeah,
if you're being
yeah,
truthful, if
yeah.
you're being
We
honest
know,
with
bro.
yourself and truthful, I think you have to think about things like that too. You can't just look at things through the lens of you wanting it to be this or that or the other. If you're going to be objective about it, you have to be honest.
Well, you think for doing it so many times, you've had some kind of negative effect on the brain overall?
No, but that was my point, is like that's what I think about though, in terms of you have to at least entertain that idea, I think.
Uh-huh.
And when I say
Yeah, it's
again,
interesting. I was talking. Go on.
it's not negative like chemically, like it did. I know that can happen in rare cases, but what I mean is, like I said before, like doing it, having some weird experience, and for the most part, when we were younger in high school, they were all fun and good. But as I got a little older, my early 20s, there were some tough ones, and I think it was showing me things that I didn't want to see, and I didn't know how to cope with it. So now I have the tools to
Hmm.
understand that, and it's good. So that's what I was saying before. I guess it's just more of a regret of not having the knowledge that I do now to help facilitate, maybe give myself a better chance back then, I guess.
Well, that's a big common mistake, or that's a big common regret most people have is if I would have just known what I know now. There's
Well,
a song about it too. What are you gonna do?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, from
You had to go through those things to learn the knowledge that you have now, so it's actually impossible if you think about it like that. Like, there's no way you could have had the knowledge back then because you only possess the knowledge you have now because it's now.
right.
Chew on that.
Listen here. All right. Um when you think about like have you ever had any weird thoughts when you've done it, like, is any
Yeah.
but I that was a dumb question. But if you have you had any like weird thoughts in terms of like, is all this fake? Am I in a simulation? I know somebody commented
No.
about VR and like how that,
Right, right.
that kind of a thing. Or, have you ever had any weird, we did that episode with Jack from the Trip Whip channel, and we were talking about like the Truman Show effect and how you feel like you're in some sort of like everybody, it's like a solipsism universe, and or you're the only thing that exists, or everybody's paying attention to you or something. Have you ever had any weird things like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I've had the thought that everybody's like staring at me. I think that's a pretty common one as well.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like just a paranoia one in general, I think. But
Yeah, I think that stuff yields a little paranoia, regardless of if you're doing the LSD or
actually, I'll
the
rephrase that.
mushroom
I
or
don't know if it's
even pot.
I don't even know if it's paranoia. I think it's just hyper awareness is what it is.
Right. Which being stoned is like a natural cause of that anyway. You know,
Yeah.
you're more adapt to be like just friendly and you think things through way more when you're on pot. At least
And
I do.
to answer Ethan, I don't think VR and simulation is a dumb idea at all, actually. I personally don't. I think it's completely a possibility if you look at like what Nick Bostrom's done with simulation stuff. And yeah, I don't think it's it's not out of the realm of possibility, at least in my mind. I think Maurice was the one saying that anybody that believes in simulation theory doesn't know what they're talking about. Is that what you said?
No, that's actually the false statement, because I think that if we are in our lifetime able to achieve virtual reality that's
Indistinguishable.
indistinguishable from normal life, then I don't know whose theory that is, but why couldn't they have done it? Well, like, we're not the first ones that have done that kind of deal. I'm down with that. I think that's definitely a possibility. It's not VR in the sense of a video game like we think of it, but who knows how high this thing could go?
Well,
That's the bottom line.
that's what Nick Bostrom was trying to teach Joe Rogan when he was on his podcast, but Joe just wasn't grasping it for the longest time. He usually gets it, but
Yeah, no,
he did not get this one. But the whole point is that, like, like from a probability standpoint, we're gonna create that technology. It's going to already exist, and then people make the argument, well, if it already exists, then how come somebody hasn't come back? Or
what's to say Warren might not be the first one? That's the thing.
right. Well, whatever. You can look at it from a bunch of different angles, but that one's a real mind fuck as well.
Yeah, I like that though. It's interesting.
I mean,
Hey,
I've been
if
entertaining.
people don't know us by now, we talk about everything and we entertain everything. And if you're gonna sit there and it's one thing to have an opinion, to say, yeah, maybe I don't believe in that, but I would never poo-poo an idea, because in 100 years we're gonna look back. You don't want to be the guy that poo-pooed that idea that's real now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty open-minded for the most part. I think that things that I believed going into the podcast, I can easily rule out based on my own research and confident with that whole thing. But then there's a lot of gray areas that I definitely still think are possible. And then I have the things that, I mean, who knows? There's just so many different possibilities on all these things.
Yeah, and it's almost like an art at this point to create different theories.
Yeah.
I think thinking outside the box in general, whatever you're doing it for, if you're thinking outside the box to make music, if you're thinking outside the box to come up with theories about the earth or, animals or whatever, that stuff's still art. It's like art. Like, you have to, like, use the stuff you've already pre-learned to make connections in your brain. I mean, isn't that kind of, I don't know. I guess it's not in the sense where you're expressing a feeling or whatever, but you're still creating something. Pretty sweet.
See, lately when I have done psychedelics where I've eaten like a high dose edible, or got crazy on some vaping or whatever, I try and, like, sit there and meditate in darkness and just think original thoughts or, like, weird things that nobody's ever thought of. And I for a while I just didn't write any of them down, but now I'm gonna I have a little pad when that happens, so I'm gonna start writing some of those down.
Yeah, you're almost creating a sci-fi story, but the sci-fi story might be actually real. That's why it's pretty interesting, because you're trying to concoct something. You're trying to come to some kind of conclusion based on some stuff that's already been presented.
Yeah.
And the way that the Earth was made is a sci-fi story. It's just one that's never been told.
Right. I mean, and you even have, like,
or at least we don't know.
Yeah.
That's all.
You have, like, Isaac Asimov, who, science fiction becomes science reality, that whole thing, and Arthur C. Clarke and all those guys. And yeah, I mean, I totally believe that the future is going to be pretty wild. I mean, if you told somebody what this future was going to be like 100 years ago, they'd think you were nuts.
Right.
So
I just think that maybe we're never going to come to the answer. So in 1,000 years, people are going to be talking about the same thing, and they're just going to be still confused.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's where the faith kind of double backs on, where you're going to have faith in one thing or another, because we may never know. That actually piggybacks off the VR rule. Like, if you're inside a computer, you're never really going to understand how the programmer has put you in there.
This is the way I think about it. Think about like you're playing an Xbox game, okay, or a PlayStation 4 or whatever you play. If you're playing the game, do you think that the character in the game is going to know that he's in a game, or is he just the character?
You think Donkey Kong knows he's in the country?
And so, but the analogy would be that if when you're looking at it like that our world's just more of like a Sims version of that, where you can do things within the game, but you think you're doing it, but you're not. Maybe like
Well, it's hard to dumb it
this.
down to some little computer game that we've created when life is the most magical thing there is.
Well,
So I'm not going to say it's like a Sims thing. I mean,
well, and this is the way I think about it, though. If you think about, like I've mentioned this before, like Simone Laplace, or talking about the God's billiard shot. Like that's what it would be like playing
yeah,
one of those games. You know what the guy's going to do, what he's capable of doing, how you can manipulate him into different ways and different actions and this and that. But the guy doesn't know that, so he thinks we'll never. Obviously it's a crazy analogy because you can never know. We don't know what consciousness is, and we don't know if computers are conscious. For them, we know they're not so far based on what we know, but could they be in the future? Is there some sort of way that it involves some weird consciousness that because we don't even really define consciousness all the same way either. If you read some of these scientific papers, the way that they define consciousness even within their different studies is different. So
the hardest thing about it is we just don't know what the point of the game is. And that's why a lot of people are depressed, because they just get bogged out. They don't know what they're doing here.
right.
And that's where I think actually the mushroom comes in handy, because then it kind of shows you that there is something that you're here for. I get real spiritual with it. That's just been my way of life from the get-go, but a big part of my spiritual awakening was getting back to the roots, getting back to what felt good in my soul.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
just personally me.
I gotta say, I'm pretty proud of you, man. You went through a tough situation, and have kind of come out of it way more positive, way more optimistic with life, more creative. You've got
Yeah.
a good energy about you now because you were pretty down for a while. So,
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the help, my man.
yeah, no worries. And we all go through tough times, and it's how you deal with those tough times and build yourself back up that leads you to the next peak and valley, and hopefully the next valley won't be so deep.
Right. Well, it's all about learning from that stuff and going on that trip and taking that little psilocybin dosage. I think that was a nice capper, no pun intended, to my awakening. But again, it's you got to keep learning every day. The day you let up is the day you stand still, and that's regression. That's that's a step back in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I think you even realized it too. Like, even though you're on this good kick and you got the positive energy and you want to travel and be creative and different things, you realize, hey, I can't push myself too hard here. Like,
Right.
it's going to prevent me from actually doing what I want to do by just constantly attack. You need to kind of
Hmm.
pick and choose.
Well, like I said before, I thought that the way to combat the anxiety was always to keep my mind moving and focusing on certain things. Because if I was focused, then I never would have a free moment to think. And when
Oh, here
apparently
we
when I
go.
think,
I hear
weird
it.
things start to happen.
He ate that Italian nightclub again, folks. I don't know what to say. This kid's heartburn's out of line.
No, it's not even heartburn, man. I just drink a coffee and it gets me a little,
Ooh, it gets you
it's a
all
little bubbly.
goosed up there, huh?
But again, it's always being active, always pushing and always on the move. That's just a recipe for disaster. So you got to have, I mean, everybody knows that you got to have moderation in your life, but it's
Yeah.
hard to implement it.
Oh,
That's
it's so
that's for
hard.
sure.
If you really understand addiction, you start to go through your life, and because of my OCD, and I have had some issues in the past, not with like anything super out of line or whatever, but just addicted to smoking a ton of times a day when I should probably take a break here and there and things like that. And when I was in my early 20s, doing a little bit too much snow, hitting the ski slopes a little too much, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
but you realize it, and you
I mean, addiction is in us all. You're playing an instrument's an addiction. When I don't play the guitar, then I play it again. I'm like, oh, my fingers craved this. It's weird.
yeah. Yeah, I
It's a
haven't.
healthy addiction
Dude,
for
I
the
used
most
to play
part,
my
but it could be.
guitar 5 hours a day, practice 3 or 4 times a week with a band, and I haven't picked up a guitar in probably since I made the intro songs for our podcast.
Right. That happened to me too, and then I picked it back up and I go, man, I missed this.
I mean, I still have my guitar is sick. I love it, but um,
Maybe your new crib, you'll have some time and some space in
yeah,
your mind at
I
least
still have all my
to
pedals and
open up
stuff
again.
too. Yeah, I just I don't know, something about that wanted me. I just wanted to take a step back, and I feel like, um, it'll always be there. It's not like I know.
That can do wonders too.
Yeah, because I've taken two breaks from playing like in bands and playing music and stuff in my life, and when I came back from those breaks, the whole thing was just brand new, but I still had the skill set from before, so I was like able to apply it kind of in a different way. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll see. I mean, maybe you and I can do something too. Start writing some tracks for the podcast or whatever, and maybe put them up places. I don't know. I mean, we did used to be in a band back in the day.
Oh yeah.
The Marm.
We knew how to do it.
Um, but yeah, I think I'm, definitely slowing down with the whole psychedelic thing. Like I'm not. When I was younger, I used to seek it out as much as possible. Um, in my early days, and then when I became a little bit older, you realize, oh, you can't do this all the time, and you start to get the message, like get your stuff in line, and this isn't to be done, often. And the older I get, the more mystical it becomes when it's more rare. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
it,
and I
beco-
think
it
that's the way
becomes
it
more
should be.
sacred.
I'm never gonna take it lightly again, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I feel like,
And that's the way it should be.
I mean, the setting obviously is 100%, something you should abide by when you do these things. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think meditation in darkness, Terrence McKenna, the 5 grams. So I think that
I don't know about that.
there's something to it. I've done it, and it's awesome. It's amazing, and it's not something that everybody should do. I'm not telling people to do it, but I can tell you that you do go places, especially if you're been practicing with meditation for a while, or you can kind of get to that place when you close your eyes and just lay back, kind of a thing. And yeah, I've definitely gone on some journeys and came out with some powerful information about myself and how I perceive things, and possibly even how the universe works from my own perspective.
That's awesome. That's
What's
that's that's all you can really ask for.
what's your favorite in terms of like, you know, was the first time the most memorable? Like which time of your, like out of all your trip reports that you discussed or talked about, I know you don't have nearly as many as me, but the ones that you do have, which one is like more ingrained, like most ingrained in your memory, like one that you can recall most of the events or whatever?
The first one I remember like the bat like yesterday. Um, the first one and the last one are my guys because it's a nice little sandwich, and now I'm gonna move past the sandwich. But
To the
no, it's
nightclub combo.
no, seriously though, it's like I really want to achieve um getting high somehow, but with no drugs altogether.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
there's
my next mission.
you do it now. You probably just don't realize it. I know you run and bike and stuff.
Right. And that's when I feel the best. I mean, I'm gonna stick with that obviously, but there's other ways to meditate and things like that. But if I do need Mr. Mushroom down the road, I know that he's there and how to deal with him and how he'll deal with me. But I
Yeah.
have a positive outlook on them altogether, and I definitely see a place for them in the pharmaceutical world. Um, what about you, my man?
Um. Yeah. I mean, I've always, my philosophy the last 4 or 5 years hasn't changed on them. I'm not gonna go crazy out there seeking stuff, but if it comes to me or somebody mentions something or something like that, I'm always down. So and usually those are the times where it works out best, where it's like somebody's like, oh, I had this, do you want, or something like that, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's like a score, like a bonus kind of a thing. So
Mm-hmm.
um and I know, look, if you cultivate your own, or that's awesome. If people that, do their own stuff, that's what, that's amazing. And I have nothing against that. And maybe my perspective will change on it in the future, especially with science and my understanding of it. Maybe it's like if I do, one macro dose a month, there's, I could see my perspective changing if new science or even my own insights, change that. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it.
And I'm trying to think of the first one I remember the best, but that whole weekend of IT Festival when we just graduated high school, went to that fish festival in Maine. That fish festival, the whole weekend was influenced by different psychedelics, and I had a great time. The music was awesome. But I just remember like walking around and being like, this is weird. Life is weird. Like I'm here in 2,000 miles away from my home, or maybe even more. I don't even know how many miles it was. It was a lot.
No, I don't think it's that far. It's like at least 1,000.
Yeah, I have no idea. No concept of miles. So, but yeah, I mean, we lived in Michigan at the time and we drove all the way to Maine. It was like 19, 20-hour drive, something ridiculous. To go see our favorite band, Fish, and the whole time there, again, I just walked around in this, it's like the Fish song Roge or Rage, Festival of Lights. I was just walking around and just this like spectacle kind of thing happening around you. It was just it was a fun and weird experience.
Yeah, well, I think that everything came together for that weekend. The music, you just graduated high school, you're moving into a new section of your life.
Yeah.
And then you throw some psychedelics on there, and that's the recipe for greatness, my friend.
And I remember the Hogar after we were there. We came fully, stocked from I had this little mushroom cluster. It looked like the Magic Kingdom from Disney. Like that's how the mushroom family, looked, the dried out one. I remember crunching that thing on our Hogar trip, and then I also had a couple hits. And we had that Belgium hash. It was like that really good hash that had that like gold stamp on it.
Oh yeah, that was a good year.
I had some nice mushies. Yeah, we had some. We went up there and had a good time. I think that whole summer was fun. That was also the power outage too. That from like New York to Detroit for like a week. That was like right before, I think, the festival.
It was a good summer, my friend. Good summer.
But yeah, that's pretty much, all I got in terms of looking on these things. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm more interested in the whole meditation thing, and obviously THC and CBD will always be my friends, and it's not like I'm not a big drinker, but I get to that place still, especially if you take like an edible or something. So, yeah, I don't know. What about you?
Well, I'm glad we rehashed these. It brought some good memories back, but it was actually like perfect timing because it like took me into my vacation and then the last little experience I had. So, I think we've covered this topic, and what do we got in store for these people coming in soon?
So I'm been reaching out to some guests. So we have some guests coming up here. I don't know specifically like what days or who's next or anything like that yet. Just working all that out. But we're gonna try and get another episode in this week. We're gonna do an episode for sure on the Eleusinian mysteries, and that'll be part of our Ancient Greece series. We're gonna do Super Volcano Part 2. Probably do another science news alerts, so like recent, scientific discoveries and articles and stuff like that. And then again, mixed in with guests that we have coming on. We have some good episodes coming up. I just don't know exactly what days or whatever. We haven't set and finalized yet. So, yeah. So stay tuned. And I'm trying to think if there was anything.
We got those shirts coming in.
Oh, yeah, the shirts.
We got those shirts coming in.
And they look badass. It'll be our logo on a black T-shirt. We already have some spoken for, so once they're available, I'll announce it on the show, and first come, first serve. And if people really like them and they go pretty quickly, we probably order a new batch. So
Yeah, maybe we can do some contests or something. We'll get some merch.
yeah, we were gonna
flowing
try and
and
do some cheaper
see.
shirts, but we actually kicked it up a little bit. I have it on there. It was listed for like $10 on our Patreon, but it's gonna be $30 actually, because we had some nicer ones, and the deal that we were gonna do with something else didn't pan out. So, but it's all good. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So check out our website, mindescapepodcast.com. Again, I started writing a blog. I'm going to try and get Maurice to write a blog about a spiritual awakening, and I'm also probably going to write one to accompany our Lucidian Mysteries episode coming up. And yeah, I'm just trying to think what else. Yeah, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/mindescapepodcast. For $2 a month, you'll get exclusive episodes. We also have some new tiers on there. And this has been a fun series. I enjoy talking about it, and it's been
Wrapping it up.
yeah. And we just so people know. I mean, I don't know. We don't ever really mention this, but I know we lose people and gain people because it's like somebody loves UFOs, so they'll join and subscribe, and then they'll hear psychedelics and they don't like that, or they'll hear, stuff about philosophy and they don't like that. But we're just pretty eclectic, and I feel like all these pieces kind of come together for my understanding of the universe and the way the mind works and stuff like that. So we're just following our journey here. We don't really have a set agenda in terms of, what direction we go in. So, and I'll never put all my eggs in one basket in terms of beliefs or anything like that. So,
Well, if something resonates, I say we go with it, and that's what we've been doing.
yeah. Yeah. Like I said, there's no rhyme or reason. There's just things we're interested in and people we're interested in talking to. And there are some common overarching themes, the psychedelics, the metaphysics, the UFO stuff, paranormal stuff, history, ancient civilizations. So, I mean, there's a lot of different grounds being covered, but I like it that way because I like to connect the dots. So,
Well said, my man. We got episode 150 in the books. We got a big shout out to Michael on his 36th birthday, man. I'm glad we got to get one in today.
thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a fun ride so far. I look forward to the next 150. Well,
Oh, yeah.
we love all you out there, and stay tuned, and you guys have a good night. Peace.
Peace.